This is TJ with Tech Made Easy. Welcome to the channel. My channel is all about making things affordable, practical, and easy. Today we're going to look at a Linux distro that offers two desktops, a Windows 10 desktop and a Windows 11 desktop. And it's not like these desktops haven't been covered before, but whenever I've seen these, most of the Linux people looking at these don't really give it credibility or where you would want to implement these. So let's take a look at these and let's take a look at who these desktops would benefit, or business or individuals. Let's get started.
Here's our Linux Windows 10 desktop. We're not going to spend very much time going over this. Obviously they've done a good job. I think this is based on the Cinnamon desktop, and if we go here, you're going to have your categories, and again it's going to have everything that you need to view pictures, and everything is compatible as far as software being compatible with Office. You have only Office, which is totally compatible with Word, Excel, PowerPoint. It saves it as those formats, opens in those formats, or they actually have Microsoft Online. If someone's paying for that, they can use that. In fact, it works the same way as Windows. Let's just put our word processor, add it to the panel, and here we are down at the panel here with our word processor. And what you're going to notice, and I'm not going to go over this in detail, but it has only Office has a toolbar that's very similar to Microsoft, and so it just makes it easy to transition. And if we just go here, look at our apps, there's video, sound. Pretty much you're going to be able to play. There's VLC in here. Most people are used to that using Windows. There's just going to be a lot of stuff that surprisingly, if you're not familiar with Linux, a lot of Linux apps or a lot of Windows apps are on Linux as well, and Mac. So there are some apps that are very similar, but at any rate, yeah, it's going to be a little different, and I'm going to talk about that as well, and where these desktops might apply to the world of computers. But I just wanted to show you this really quick because we're going to take it to the Windows 11 version of this. But if we go down here to the right hand corner, we can see our time date, our speaker volume, our internet connection. We're connected right now because we're wired. We'll show our printer, so on and so forth. I mean, it's not going to really be, they're not going to really feel out of place using this. The only thing that might be out of place is going to the setup. The setup's going to be a little different than what they're used to in Windows 10. Once we get to a Windows 11 is a lot more, you almost can't even tell. It looks like you're in the Windows setup area. So if someone had to go in here, it's not that difficult, obviously, but like here's your themes, and if you want, here's your backgrounds. You can change your backgrounds here. Pretty easy to do that. So there are some things, and if we right mouse click on here, we can change our background here. We can change the display if we want to do that. So it's going to be it's going to give the user a very good feeling of Windows 10. Not exact, not 100%, but it's gonna be close, and it's very usable if you need this kind of environment on a Linux desktop. So let's take a look really quick at Windows 11, and let's talk about where do these desktops fall in? Who's the best candidate to use these? And if you're a Linux user, you're not going to use this. So this is not going to be a Linux desktop for a Linux user. So let's go ahead. Let's switch over to Windows 11. Okay, here we are at our Linux 11 desktop. Windows 11. So let's just take a look at this, and they've done a good job at it, and I don't know what copyright infringements they have or anything like that, but let's just look at it real quick. You've got your icons in the center just like Windows 11. You got your favorites up here just like Windows 11. But the one thing I want to just go into really quick is let's go into settings. They've done a good job with the settings as far as looking like Windows, and so it's pretty good job on imitating this section here. But let's go back. Let's go back now, and well, I'll talk about what programs it comes with here in a minute. But one thing I do want to talk about, let's just look at the apps real quick. And this is the whole thing about when you're, in fact, I'm going to go back here. So whenever you're doing like a Windows lookalike, it'll never be 100% Windows lookalike, because the Linux apps, they may function exactly the same as a window app, but the name may be different. Like here, they call this KCalc. This is actually a Plasma. This is Plasma, and that's part of the Plasma software is the KCalc. The console or the terminal is console, and they did put in a Microsoft PowerShell here as well. But not everything's going to be named exactly the same, so there's a little bit of fumbling that you may have to do. But they do have OneDrive in here. They have Microsoft Edge in here. In fact, Microsoft Edge, I don't know if I saw one person reviewing this, and he didn't even know Microsoft Edge was available on Linux. But it's available here. So let's just look at the apps in here, and they have quite a few apps, just like Windows. I mean, you're not going to, for a basic install, I don't think you're going to be missing much. It's going to give you pretty much what you need. Now, the one thing that they have done here is they have made available, obviously, Microsoft Online is a web-based, so if you really needed that, you could pay for that. But they actually have OnlyOffice here, and OnlyOffice is free, and it gives you a Microsoft compatible, Excel compatible, PowerPoint compatible. It's great, and those are Linux people know about OnlyOffice. But if you're looking at this from a Windows point, you may not realize there are three choices in Linux, and there may be more than that, three that I know of, that give you an Office suite just like Microsoft that's compatible with the Microsoft suite. And so you can use these and pass them back and forth. But the whole thing is that some of the things in here, they're not going to be exactly like Windows, but they do have Steam in here. So they may have to get used to some of the names that things are being called in here. So it's not an exact clone of Windows 11. Take for instance Kate. They're not going to know that Kate is a text editor, and so they're going to have to get used to the naming of some of the apps that they're going to use. And of course, they're not going to be exactly like they are on Windows, but a text editor is a text editor. Don't get me wrong, there are differences in text editors, but you know, it's just a basic text editor. But let's go ahead, and so you have a system monitoring tool here that's really nice. And then we'll talk about, like I said, as soon as we're done here, just one more thing I want to show you in here is we'll talk about what is the use case for these Windows Linux desktops. Let's open up the file manager, and down here's the file manager too, and in Plasma it's called Dolphin, if you're not familiar with the Linux desktop. And so we have our folders here. It's really nice looking. Let's go into documents for a minute here, and here's a Microsoft document, and it'll just open it up. And OnlyOffice, it has a really similar layout to Microsoft. A little different because it's in tabs, like a browser, but your spreadsheet here, and again, it saves it in Excel, opens Excel, and for a basic spreadsheet, this is great. And OnlyOffice actually, well, let me just talk real quick too. It does have a OneDrive option here, and you activate that in the settings as well. But OnlyOffice also, let's just go back here. OnlyOffice itself has its own cloud as well, and then it offers all these other cloud options. But OnlyOffice gives you so much space as well offline, and so it's really, you can definitely use this and not have to worry about using the Microsoft Office programs, and just use what's available on Linux. It'll be totally compatible. Okay, and this is another thing I mean. So you have the Microsoft Store, but in Linux, in this particular one, because it's KDE, it's called the Discovery Software Center. But you look up stuff just like you do in Windows. And so if I want to say Zoom here, type in Zoom, and here will come up. And this is the flat pack version of Zoom, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty easy to install applications in Linux. It's got a great graphical interface to do that, and then you just hit install, and it's installed. It's good. This is brought to you by LinuxFX, and what happens is they do have more than one theme. They have a Windows 11 theme and a Windows 10 theme. If we go over here, when you go to download themes, it'll have your Windows 11 option, and it'll have a Windows 10 option, even though it says 11 up here, and and they call this Windows Ubuntu. And but the thing is they make a claim here that you can run your favorite exe and MCI apps in this program, and that is not necessarily true. What it is Linux has a program called Wine that allows you to run some Windows apps in Wine, but not all Windows apps are compatible. So you can't just install this thinking, oh, I'm going to run my Windows apps in here. The best thing to do when you run any Windows or any Linux operating system is you want to try to find replacements for the software that you're using now. Or a lot of the software on Windows is cross-platform with Linux, like Zoom, Spotify, a whole bunch. There's video editors across platforms. There's a whole bunch of things across platform. But the scary thing about this is they do have a professional key that you can buy, and I think, from what I can understand, that this product is free, but the professional key opens up other apps and support. And the rumor is, and I don't know how true this is, but they obviously are going to store your database, and that that data that you give them can be compromised by the company. And I don't know how true that is, but they said that they have data leaks, but they are collecting your data. So I would kind of be aware of that. I don't know if I would pay for this key, but let's go on with the video. So a Linux person, I would imagine a Linux person would not want to install this. I don't want to install this for my personal desktop, but if someone's thinking about going to Linux, I would personally push them into Linux Mint or KDE Neon, and especially KDE Neon gives you kind of a more Windows feel. This is KDE right here, so. But where does this fall into place then if you're a Linux user and you're not going to use this? And I don't think a lot of people coming to Linux are going to use this. It might be easier at first, but it's really not Linux. So this is where I see the place for this. And I haven't heard anybody talk about this on YouTube. I see it in the corporate, or small business, and this is the reason why. There's a lot of computers out there that aren't going to be Windows compatible coming up, and a lot of people in a small business or even big corporations, they may not have anything on their desktop that has to be proprietary. When I say has to be proprietary, like the word processor that I just showed and Excel that I showed. And a lot of times things are done in the browser now. A lot of company databases are in the browser. And so it doesn't matter if you're using a Mac or Linux or Windows, as long as you have a browser, you can access the company database, or if their whole company's online, you can access it that way. And so this is really for someone that has basic computer needs, where they don't really necessarily, they're not running anything really proprietary, and where they, especially an office person, where maybe they just need a Word document, do a little Excel. Now let me just say something about the Excel compatibility. And this is the thing, is I have a friend that's in IT, and when I first found out about, and I found out about this like 6 months ago, maybe longer, I said, hey, you ought to look at these, because there may be some departments that you could put this in and people wouldn't even really realize that they're not using Windows. And he looked at it, and he did implement some of the Windows 10 desktop in some of his departments for those people that just need a basic word processor and a spreadsheet. They're not running anything proprietary, but it doesn't work for everybody in their company, especially in the accounting department, because there is proprietary software, and then some of these guys have really complicated spreadsheets. And when he took them, he tried LibreOffice taking some of these spreadsheets in, and they didn't really work. Like, and so, but they're really a lot of formulas, a lot of 3D spreadsheet work, and it didn't really work. So in those circumstances, if you really have a lot of complicated spreadsheet stuff, it may not work. That's why I say this is for basic people that are doing basic office work, that need a little bit of a spreadsheet, maybe calendaring or whatever they're doing. Then I think there's a handful of people that could use this outside of business, and like my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law coming up, she doesn't have a computer that's going to be Windows 11 compatible, and I'm the one that supplies her the computer, and she only has one program that's proprietary, and she doesn't use it that much anymore. Down the road, I'm going to see if it'll run in Wine in a year from now, or 2 years, when Windows 11 comes, where they're forcing that, where they're not going to support Windows 10 anymore. I'm just going to see if, because all she needs is a word processor, and if I can make that one program work in Wine, that's it. Because she goes on the web to do all of her research, and so and get her email and stuff like that. She does do a lot of family research, so on the web, and maybe by that time she won't even, that other program she may or may not be using that much. And who knows, maybe I'll do a dual boot, and she can dual boot into Windows when she needs to have access to that program, if it's not very often. So, but she would not even know the difference. She wouldn't even know the difference if I put the Windows 10 version of this on her computer, and if she was using only Office, or even if I set her up with LibreOffice, everything would be fine there. And so that's kind of where I kind of see this fitting. Some home users that maybe someone that's a Linux person wants to get them on the Linux, but they don't really want to really learn. They just want to keep it almost exactly the same. But I also see it for businesses where, again, they just have small use for it. Anyway, so that's my opinion. I could be wrong, but they've done a great job imitating Windows 11, to be honest. I really like it. They run quick. But anyway, this is TJ with Tech Made Easy. Hope that was interesting, and have a great day. Thanks.
Now that was easy peasy.